Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Grace Presents. I'm Kara Latham. I'm Vice President of Marketing here at Grace Management, and we are so excited about today's session. It's a new era of senior living, how programming, design, and dining are shaping life today. It's really about the changing perception, as we like to say in the industry. This ain't your grandma's nursing home. I think there's still a big perception that we face in senior living where people have an idea in their brain of what senior living was probably 20 or 30 years ago, and it's very, very different. And again, we're just so excited to share some time with you today. These Grace Present webinars are really designed to be authentic, conversational. We want you guys to walk away having questions answered, really getting a feel for this. So this is a very big discussion that we'll have here, and we're hoping that you guys enjoy it. We've had so much fun putting it together. If you do have any questions throughout, we encourage you to go ahead and just pop them in Q&A, and we'll go ahead and read those as we go along and make sure we're answering your questions. And then we always like to know who's on the call. We have a big group today, which is really exciting. And we're going to go ahead and just do a quick poll to see who is on with us. You wouldn't take a minute, just take a minute and let us know. Great. And Haley, let us know if you want to share out what the results are.
We're probably about a quarter of the way there of how many people that we have registered that have answered it so far. So
okay.
We'll give another minute.
We'll give another minute for sure. For sure. While we're doing that, I'll just give a quick plug. For those of you who aren't familiar with Grace Management, we have been around since, for over 40 years, and we operate and own senior living communities across the country in 23 states, from active adult to independent living, assisted living, and memory care. So again, we're delighted to be with you today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our first guest in just a moment, unless, Haley, you want to share out just percentage-wise who's on the call.
Yes, 75% of those on the call work with older adults.
Okay.
We have 5% that is a caregiver or a spouse to a loved one, and then 20% is other.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much. And with that, I am going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Jennifer Boyer, who's our National Director of Resident Experience here at Grace Management. Thank you so much for being here today, Jennifer.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here and talk about a subject that I am super passionate about. So first, just a little background on myself. So I grew up with a mom who worked in a nursing home her entire career. She was a candy striper from the age of 15 and retired as a nurse in that nursing home. So I spent a lot of my childhood visiting and getting to experience it. And honestly, had a horrible perception of what senior living was. And if you would have asked me in my 20s, absolutely never would I ever work in senior living. However, life sure has a wonderful way of bringing you where you belong. And I started my career as a theater major in college, and I got into training and professional development. And I was living in California, but I wanted to travel more. So I took a travel position with a national independent living, senior living company. And with them was promoted into the role of director of lifestyle and wellness, working with the life enrichment teams and concierge teams. And I absolutely fell in love and found my passion. And really, my formative years in that negative perception that I had is what fuels my passion for helping to shift the perception about what aging is, what senior living is, and how we can bring so much life and joy and vitality to all that we get to create in our communities. So, I have a very strong view of where senior living could go.
Right.
And, that's a lot about what I'm going to talk about today. So we can move on to the
Yeah.
first slide.
No, I was going to say, what a great introduction. You can tell by the smile on your face that you're super passionate about it. And again, I'm so grateful you're at Grace and that you are elevating programming across all of our communities, and really excited to hear about what it's looking like, what senior living is today. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, one thing that kind of blows people's minds sometimes is to think about who our seniors are today. So an 80-year-old today was born in 1946. That is 1 year after World War One, or I'm sorry, World War Two ended. So often we still think about the residents we serve having, served in World War II, that they were into Frank Sinatra and, the big bands. But really, that was their parents' generation. So the residents that we now have in our communities grew up with the Beach Boys, grew up with Bob Dylan. This was the generation that, started the sexual revolution, that questioned authority and, really had the saying, never trust anyone over 30. So we really need to shift the thinking that we bring to the programming that we create and really understand who our residents are and what has been important to them their entire lives. So another really strong belief I hold in the programming that we create is it's not just activities. We are curating a lifestyle. And with that perception, we can very much shift the experiences that our residents get to have every single day. And when we take on the beliefs about their own self perception rather than what we think someone their age is capable of, we get to create really meaningful experiences for them as well. So, all right, we can move on to the next slide now. So, one thing that is very fascinating is there's so much research that supports this. Most people do not feel their chronological age. In fact, most people report feeling 10 to 20 years younger than their chronological age. I was at my mother-in-law's retirement community and I saw a guy wearing a shirt that said, "It's so weird to be the same age as old people." And I just rolled and it stuck with me, and that will always stick with me because often we don't see ourselves that way. Even at 47, I don't see myself as 47. I think I'm 32, and until I get some reminders physically, but that's okay. But it really helps me to understand, at least to some degree, the way our residents feel. So starting to shift our own thinking to that type of thinking will help us to better create experiences for our residents. So we don't need to remind them also that they're aging. So we need to start shifting some of the language that we use around our programming. So we can take out the word senior. It doesn't need to be a senior fitness class. We know they're seniors. Just call it a fitness class. We can still make appropriate modifications, but we make those modifications about their physical ability, not because they're a certain age. So also, like, of course, we want to have nostalgic activities in our communities, but we also want to shift and start thinking a little bit about current culture and start bringing some of those pieces in as well. And it really helping our residents to feel more vital and alive now, not just reminding them of what it was like when they were younger. So, all right, we can shift to the
Jennifer,
second
let me ask
slide.
you a question. So a couple of things, again, so much good information. How much time do you spend like talking to the residents to find out what they want to do, right? Like, how do we know all this stuff? What does that look like for you?
For me, it's just genuine conversations when I'm in communities, talking with them. We of course survey, and a lot of it is feedback from our life enrichment directors and other team members who are in the communities. What do you hear? What do you want? And anytime I do get the opportunity to go into a community, one of my favorite things to do is sit down with residents. And I want to sit down with a diverse group of residents, and especially those residents who maybe aren't as active as others, and really hear their genuine feedback about these types of things.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in our communities, which has been terrific. Um, And there's just so many success stories related to programming. So for instance, I was in a community and spoke with the fitness instructor, and she said they've had multiple people stop using walkers because attending her fitness course. And so like there's all these success stories related to programming. I was in a community a couple of weeks ago and met with an incredible resident who I'm going to hold this up. I know it's not going to show very well. I'm plugging her book, but I am plugging her book. She wrote a book. She wrote a memoir. It was like her life story that she wrote and published. And it all came about because she was attending the creative writing class through the senior living community that she lives in. And so there's just so many cool things that I see. And again, I know you guys do a lot of feedback to kind of understand where should we go? What should programming look like? It's not people just sitting around playing bingo or playing cards. It's very active. It's very intelligent. And I love that. So thanks.
Absolutely. And I like to ask the question, not just the what are your interests? What do you still want to do? I would like to ask if you could curate what your lifestyle looked like, what
Mhm.
would that be? Because often we get different answers. So thank you for sharing those wonderful stories because that's really what it's all about. Someone really coming into our communities thinking, okay, I'm moving into, my last home or whatever their thoughts might be. But then all of a sudden they've stepped into something new. They've brought vitality back into their life. They brought purpose and meaning back into their own lives. And our residents are capable of so much more than we often give them credit for. And
Mhm.
it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, um, one thing we also need to do is we need to examine our own ageist beliefs. Most of us, and myself included, I still definitely hold some ageist beliefs, very unconscious, subconscious, uh, even words I use, the way I think about things. But we need to really ask ourselves questions like, my residents can't do that, really? Or did we just not present it in a way that either interested them or was accessible to them? Do we offer the right alternatives? Like, we really need to question our own thoughts and beliefs about what we believe is possible for our residents. Um, you know, I want to ask everybody on the call just to think to yourself right now, when you picture a, a senior living community calendar of events, what comes to mind?
I honestly, I always think it's bingo. I know it's a rhetorical question, but like it's bingo, but it's not bingo, but that's what people automatically think.
Exactly. And it's bingo. It's chair yoga. It's Frank Sinatra tribute band. And if you go to the next slide, I just want to start talking a little bit about some of the shift in the terminology that we use because it's so, so important. So, like, instead of a sing along, let's have a karaoke jam. Like, I think that especially the children or the loved ones and even the residents themselves who are looking for a community to move into should ask the question like, do I want to attend that activity? Does that activity sound appealing to me? Does that activity make me feel old? And if the answer is yes, then we should re-examine what that activity is. And maybe it's just the way we title it. I also love when our communities come up with names for activities that really reflect the culture and personality of the residents in the community. We have a community that has a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and another one that has the Naughty Knitters, like
That was the one I
KNOTY.
was thinking of. Right,
Yeah,
right.
and that's so cute. And,
Yes.
those are fun and playful and super appropriate for that community. And is that going to work everywhere? No. But senior living moving forward is not cookie cutter and it shouldn't be at all. So it really should reflect the residents who are in the community right now and who's coming into that community next. And that's what we really want to create. So yeah, like so in the naming of programs, I think it's really important. You can move to the next slide. When you are looking for a senior living community, I think there's some really important things to look for. And like I said, asking the questions to yourself, to the people you are meeting with when you go into the communities, looking at that calendar and seeing, is it dominated by bingo and board games and generic trips to, the mall or Trader Joe's, even those are really great. Let's incorporate some cool cultural outings where we're really exploring and enhancing the curiosity of our residents. Um, you know, and just a reminder too, like if your loved one says, I don't want to live in a community, I don't want to be surrounded by old people, they're not being difficult. They are telling you that they want to have vitality and connection and growth, and they want to feel alive. So look for a community that gives you the indicators that that's what they're going to experience when they live there. So, we need to think of it as this is, our communities are a place that happen to be for people who are aging, not that that is the primary identity of who is in our community. So, all right, with that, I just really kind of want to close my section here just by saying that, everyone, it does not matter your age, wants purpose and growth and creative expression and meaningful connection. And those are not senior needs, they are human needs. And that is what senior living needs to move towards.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. Perfect. I am so delighted to introduce Jenna Johnston. Jenna, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can do your own introduction, but thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. As we're talking about the future, I am having technology issues today, so, it's not always perfect. I want to do a sound check. Am I okay?
You're great. We can hear you.
Okay. Perfect. And apologies in advance if I freeze, and I inevitably freeze in the worst possible phase. So everyone can have some enjoyment today. I'm happy to provide it.
Jenna, like I said, these are authentic conversations. These are not highly curated, so it's all great.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with everyone. I want to talk a little bit about how I got into senior living. I've done this for a very long time. Senior living is actually all I have ever done. So when I was 16 years old, it was get a car, pay for gas, get your first job. So I grew up in a rural suburb outside of Philadelphia, and everyone worked at the large Life Plan CCRC. All my friends were in dining. It was the place to work. So I applied. I walked through the door for my first interview, first job, literally ran directly into the CEO of the company. We started chatting, and he looked at me and he said, "Are you sure you want to go into dining?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. That's where all my friends are. Like, I'm going into dining." He goes, "You're not going into dining." I said, "Really?" He goes, "No, you're going to be an aide in memory care." I said, "Huh, memory care?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Okay, let's try this." Now, thank goodness he did that, because honest to goodness, anyone on this call who knows me, or anyone in the world who knows me in dining is probably the worst decision ever. No one would be served. Everyone would wear their food. It is just not my strong suit. I am not a very graceful person. So I ended up at 16 in memory care as an aide, and I absolutely found my passion. I found where I belonged. I found my people. So fast forward, all through high school, all through college, I worked as an aide, as a med tech, as a shift supervisor. Post-college, I moved into social services, kind of sold my way into sales by accident and ended up there. Did that for quite a while, and then ended up in operations where I really found my calling. So I do focus a lot on sales-driven operations to kind of combine all of my passions. So that is who I am. I've been at Grace for just about 6 years, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Awesome. And you operate many communities for us, and you have a lot of associates under your wing and a lot of residents and families. So that's great. I'm really excited to get your perspective. I also want to point out, I think it's remarkable. I fell into senior living. I started out in hospitality and healthcare, but I kind of fell into it. So I've been with Grace just about a year, but it's been really interesting and exciting to me to see how many people were like, "No, I knew I always wanted to work with seniors." And it was a calling, it's a passion. And I love so much that we have that here at Grace, and you can feel it when you go into our communities and look at the programming and in the leadership and everything like that. So I wanted to comment on that. Thank you. It continues to amaze me and delight me as well.
Of course. Yeah, senior, it's a passion, right? I always tell folks when we interview them, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. It is a different way of working. It's a passion job. So you can't come into this if you want a 9 to 5, if you want a job, because at 3 a.m. when that phone rings, It's a lifestyle. It's a passion. You want to answer your phone because you want to be there. So I appreciate, Carrie, you saying that so very much. So one of the things I want to talk about today is really the evolution of what senior living is. Jen talked a lot about kind of ageism, and the residents we serve now are different than the residents we used to serve. We've changed, we've grown, and we've evolved as senior living operators and as an industry, really. So what we see today is we see a lot of construction, we see renovations around just that, right? So we are now creating spaces, specific spaces, right? We walk through senior living communities today as they are for the residents that we have now. And we have these great grand spaces that no one uses, right? Or it's bingo night, it's night at the races, it's movie night. They're not specific and they're not intentionally designed spaces. As we look towards the future, we're starting to design and we're starting to build intentional spaces to really accommodate all those things that, Jen was talking about, right? The residents that have passion and they want to share those passions with people. They want to host nights and they want to have a space to do it. They want to maybe go outside on the back patio and play pickleball because there's a pickleball court, because why wouldn't there be? So what we're doing is we're really taking this institutional idea of what senior living has always been. It's certainly gotten better, and we're really creating purpose-driven senior spaces so that these folks who are coming in, they can thrive, they can learn, and they can really live their best life for their next however many years we get to spend with them. So that's really what we're looking at. Additionally, we're seeing this huge shift in a focus, not necessarily on medical health, while medical health is so important, but holistic health. So a huge focus on health and fitness. So in the past, we'd see chair yoga in that, communal space that everyone does everything in. You set the chairs up, you move the chairs, you put them back. We're not doing that anymore. Instead, we're creating fitness floors, right? So you can do yoga, you can do Pilates, you can go lift weights. There's an actual fitness instructor, maybe multiple fitness instructors there with the ability to teach you whenever you're ready. We're seeing massage rooms and massage parlors, and we're seeing all these different things where folks can go in and they can really experience, maybe even a sauna, that holistic lifestyle that they're really, really searching for. One of the things that I just had the opportunity to speak with a really large group of residents and get to spend a day with them and learn from them. One of the common themes I heard over and over again was, we want more fitness, right? We don't just want one option, we want 10. And we want to have access to them and just be able to utilize those spaces. So we're learning a lot from them. One of the other things that we do, I just mentioned I spent some time with the residents, and Jennifer touched base on this as well, is we're listening and we're asking them, right? I think a lot about this. I have parents, my dad just turned 80 a few weeks ago, and I think about him a lot. And I think about what would he like in senior living? Would he move to one of my communities today? And if he did, would he be happy, right? So I think a lot about that, and we talk to our residents, and, we say to them, what do you want now? But maybe not now. What do you want in 5 years? Because we got to build it. My favorite phrase is build it and they will come. If we want residents to continue to come to our communities, continue to thrive, we got to build them an environment where they can thrive. And the generation that's coming in, we've all been waiting for years. We've been talking about it as an industry forever. They're here and they have different expectations for what the future holds. So with that, Haley, could you jump to the next slide?
Jenna, I was going to say, go back really fast because I want to.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I want to tee it up a little more, and that's my fault. But I did want to chime in on a couple. I think you're right? We've known for baby boomers are coming. We know, again, coming from healthcare, that there's a shortage of healthcare. We know that wellness is really important, and we're going to start seeing a lot of shifts within the communities as well. And so, for instance, like you said, there's a whole floor, there's a whole wellness area, there's coordinated care, there's different things. We're going to get into that on our next webinar next month. So more to come there. But it looks really, really different. And then back to Jennifer, what you said, it's not cookie cutter anymore, right? It's very intentional to the region, the area, the residents we're serving. And you see that in dining, which Ken will get to in a little bit, but it's the intentionality behind every space, everything we're doing. It's very well thought out. There's a lot of investment made. We have been grateful to be part of many refresh communities this last year and going into this year. And that's what I wanted to tee up. Jenna has the privilege of being involved in two major ones that I'm really excited about. Again, for me, it feels like a lot of our communities feel like, going to a nice hotel, going to a Ritz-Carlton. The property Ken is at reminds me of a Ritz-Carlton, but it's really different than what you probably think it is. And with that, Haley, please go on to the next slide. This is just a little look. Jenna, I'll let you chime in because this is one of your communities.
Thanks, Kara. And so we gave everyone a little sneak peek and then we pulled it back. So I'm sure you're all wondering, what this is. So these are renderings. They're not exact, but these are renderings of the community that we are doing a very large scale renovation at, of what we imagine it's going to look like. So everyone take a minute and look at these. These are certainly not anything we've seen in senior living, I think, ever. They're modern, they're fresh, they have a bit of tradition in there, but it feels new. And this is really to serve the next generation of residents that are coming in that want modern but comfortable. They want it to feel like home, but they want it to be designed. And that's essentially what we're doing. And you're going to see here very specific spaces. If you can look on the bottom with that beautiful white and black flooring, that's a restaurant. It's a place for residents to go and have a meal and enjoy it and feel like they're truly in an atrium in a fancy restaurant or a fancy hotel even. Haley, if you want to go to the next one.
If I can just add really quick, I love seeing the color that's coming back and that we're moving away from like the millennial gray and all the blandness. And there's a lot of color. And just
coming from a millennial.
I am a millennial and I'm not a big fan. I'm definitely a more warmer tone fan. So this speaks to me and I love it. And I think it looks amazing.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, Jen, I know we did a lot of research to find out what do the residents want. And overwhelmingly, they said, we want color. We want color. We want color. Vibrant. Yeah, we want nature. We want color. We want vibrant. We want outdoor spaces. We want, one of the communities I was thinking of, just back to kind of programming or intentional spaces, one of our communities in Tulsa, they have a woodworking room. They had a bunch of gentlemen and women that were like, we want to work with our hands. And they have a whole room dedicated to woodworking, like a shop class you would have seen in high school. So it's just really interesting to see the way things are shifting, both stylistically, but also, functionally based on what the, residents are wanting and what the area looks like. So, okay, Haley, take it away. Great.
And these are just some more pictures of really where senior living is going, right? Pictures about functional spaces, pools. One of the things that I have a lot of properties in Florida, I'm at one today, is you get to see the pools being used. They're doing water aerobics every single day. The grandkids are here and they're playing in the pool. So now we're starting to get to see this intergenerational pool. It's, oh gosh, we got to go see grandma today. What are we going to do? It's, let's go see grandma today and let's go have fun because the community is designed for us to go and enjoy together. We have playgrounds at communities, gated playgrounds that are super safe and super accessible. So grandparents still can have the opportunity to play with their grandkids at a park. How cool is that? Something they may have thought they lost, they now can go do. So really continuing to build for the future and to build to kind of just keep families together and give them opportunity. Because at the end of the day, we're still caring for people. That never, ever goes away, but it's less, I think, now that it's task focused. It's very focused on the care. The care is so important. It's why they're there. But how can we give them care? How can we elevate that? How can we give them vibrant living? And how can we make them feel valued in the future while still providing all their needs and all their care? And I think that's really the shift that we're seeing. Haley, if you want to jump next. Great, thank you. The other piece, and this is probably one of my biggest passions in senior living, and I started to kind of chat about it there, is bringing the community in. No longer are we that senior living community on the corner that you walk by with your dog and you know it's there. No more. We're a hub. We're part of the community. One of the things we're doing, and we're going to provide the community that you guys all just saw the renderings for, is a concierge. Think all-inclusive concierge. You wake up in the morning, you want to go sailboating. Guess what? You're going to go downstairs to your concierge and say, hey, I want to go sailboating today. Can you make that happen? Sure, absolutely. I need tickets to the theater tonight. Can you make that happen? Absolutely. I'm on it. So not just from an activity standpoint, but really being hubs. You know, we're looking at doing a store. Think of a coffee shop that has exterior access for the community to come into us. Can you imagine to actually be walking by and go, oh my gosh, that's my favorite coffee shop. And it just happens to be in a senior living community, right? Where our residents can go and have a cup of coffee. So really to be these community hubs where we can bridge the gap between being the senior living place and being the place where people want to come and where our residents are proud to bring people to, but also that we're a part of the external community. So we're doing things in the community. You know, Jennifer talked about giving back. That's so inherent to people, especially seniors. So what can we do for the community? We're not separate, we're a part of it. And I think as we go forward, that's one of the biggest trends we're going to see. And one of our biggest focus is, you know, how do we be a bigger part of the large community? And then how do we also bring that community in to serve our residents?
Yeah, Jenna, that all of that was so well said. Thank you. I love how you said, you know, being a place where we're proud, you know, they're proud to bring people in. These are their homes. So it's really important. You know, and we strive really, really hard to be embedded in the communities that we're, you know, grateful to be a part of. One of the things, just a call out on the slide, is you don't have to live there to attend some of these things. Like, we want you to pop in. We want you to get a feel for it. There's great programming on. There's great things open to the public on our website, as I'm sure on other senior living companies. There's events. There's an event page. You can look and see and say, oh, actually, they're doing some a learning on Medicare. Medicare is really complicated. I think I want to go to that. Or is there, you know, a heart health, you know, talk that I want to go to? You can go. You absolutely are welcome to go. That's the case at our Grace communities. I would think it's the case across the board. But I would really encourage anyone who is looking or working with seniors or has aging adults, or, you know, considering a senior living move, go in, pop by a few of them and see what's going on. And then senior living communities are a great resource. If we can't help you with what you need, we will certainly either be connected to someone who can. We can certainly help you. So we are definitely wanting to be a resource, and traditionally have been, but we're excited to see that expand even more.
And Kara, I want to challenge the group here quickly before,
yes,
you know, I wrap up my portion. I want to challenge everyone, because I've done this for a long time, right? And it's really, really easy to get into the habit of, well, we've always done it this way. It's always worked. My building's full. My building's been full for years. You know, it's easy to live there. It's so easy. But I want to challenge everyone, and I challenge myself with this daily, is it good enough, right? It's good. It's probably pretty great. But could it be better? And just because it's how we've always done it, is it how we always need to do it? Because I think that's where we really find the future, and that's where the change comes from. And that's where we start asking the right questions to the right people and our residents and learning. So, you know, my challenge today is to challenge what you know and to challenge what you've always done.
I think that's great. And I would almost want to expand that to, if you're, you know, an adult considering senior living, a challenge for you with how you're living right now. Is it good enough? Is it good? I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's great, but is it good enough? Is there possibility with connection and enhancing your quality of life and your well-being with some of these things? So definitely, again, love the challenge, Jenna. Thank you. Would highly encourage anyone to visit some senior living communities. Great.
Thank you.
Jenna, thank you so much. With that, I am so excited to turn it over to Chef Ken, and he's at one of our communities in southern Utah, Snow Canyon. Beautiful community. Those were the pictures that we showed on slide 2, or I'm on the second slide of Senior Living Reimagined. And Ken, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, as I know you have a lot of great information to share around what dining is looking like in senior living. Oh, and you're on mute. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate being here, and I'm really excited to be with everybody today. And I feel honored too. So, yeah, so I've been with Snow Canyon for just over a year and a half, or about just over a year, I should say. And then I've been in senior living for about 4.5 years. And what's funny is listening to everybody, I feel like I've completed the circle. So a lot of my career was spent in spas and in healthy cuisine. I mentored with some great chefs. And I feel like Snow Canyon is where I need to be, because I can share some of this knowledge and develop a dining program that, we feel like is definitely the direction that senior living is going. And yeah, so it's just a full circle for me. So I'm really delighted to be here. And then there is a transformation happening in senior living right now. And it's no longer institutional cooking. It's not, three, a starch, a vegetable, and a protein on a plate anymore. It's not, low sodium diets that are bland and are uneventful. And it's not just food. It's not, we don't think of it as just food for our residents. We're trying to create a program that's elevated, that the program is intentional. We're doing it with purpose in mind. It's chef driven, meaning, we're sourcing ingredients, we're using good ingredients, we're using healthy ingredients, nutrient dense ingredients, and then we're definitely wellness focused. So those are the things that we're really trying to develop here. And so far, we've had great traction, and the residents are really, really excited about what we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you share any success stories? Because I know you have a few, and I've been privileged to dine at Snow Canyon many times. And it, again, is just like a fancy restaurant, so delicious and healthy and fresh and all those other things. But I know you've had, there are a couple things that stand out. I know you shared a story about people getting really healthy based on what they're doing at Snow Canyon. You have any success stories to share with the group?
Yeah, actually, there's 3 that really come to mind. So we've had one resident. She was one of our founders, and she's been with us from day one. And she has lost 30 pounds since being here without trying. Like she wanted to. She wanted to be healthier. She knew she had some extra weight that she wanted to lose, but it was not like a deprivation diet or low calories. It was literally just partaking in our program and eating what our day-to-day food was. And she was pleasantly surprised. And then we have a lot of people that are talking to me about, onset diabetes or having diabetes, and just eating our foods that are much higher in fiber, much more nutrient dense, not empty calories, that they can control their numbers a lot better and a lot easier as well. And the one that I think is most impactful is we have a memory care resident that the family says they have improved cognitively because of a much stricter diet. So they've cut out sugar, no refined foods. Again, just more plant-based, more nutrient dense. And they've actually seen a bounce back where conversation's a little bit easier with them. They're just a little bit more present. So it's great. I love to hear stories like that.
No, I think that's great. I think the success stories are there are many. Jenna, I know you mentioned in one of your communities, when I think about memory care or different diets, you said something about purees. I want to hear more about that. If you could just chime in on that.
Absolutely, and this is a really, really great story. First and foremost, I do want to put a plug for Beach House in Naples, Florida. So one of the dining director there is actually a Michelin-starred chef, which is just incredible. I mean, who gets to say that? And one of the things that he does really well is he hand pipes puree. So it's absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen puree like this. So one of the things he did is one of the dishwashers at the community, he took him aside and over the course of a couple weeks actually taught this dishwasher how to hand pipe the puree so that this dishwasher now had an additional skill that he could take and continue on a career path with. So not only are we elevating, again, you know, the meals we're serving residents with special dietary needs, we're also elevating our team through this, which I think is the most special thing we can do and part of what we do and why we do it. But these purees are just, they're gorgeous and they look like a Michelin star chef did them. But the best part of this is at this point, you can't tell the difference between the one the dining director did and the dishwasher did, which I think is the coolest piece of all of it.
That's a great story. No, and I think
that's awesome.
with Ken, with what you and Jenna said, of course, actually everyone on this call, it's so clear the shift around personalization, customization. We can accommodate you. So with that, Haley, do you want to move to the next slide? Great.
So the other thing too that we've noticed is our residents are changing, like we've talked about already. You know, our residents are world traveled. I have several residents here that have lived in different countries. So they're much more world traveled. They're much more educated too. They're watching the food documentaries on TV. They're watching, they're reading, you know, nutritional information. They know what, you know, they talk about gut health. They know what their body should feel like. So with that being, you know, taking that into account, we have to prepare menus that are going to entice them to eat and to be part of our communities. So they expect vibrant colors, you know, and flavors. They're expecting fresh ingredients. They're expecting, you know, global influence and thoughtful presentation. So really, we need to, you know, the question isn't going to be, you know, how do we feed them? The question's more going to be like, how do we nourish them? You know, how do we delight them on a day-to-day basis?
Right.
So, and if we can go to the next slide. So one of the things that, you know, having a spa background and healthy cuisine background, one of the things that I really has always kept with me is like the blue zone diets. So in the blue zone diets, they're very, it's about 5 or 6 communities around the world. One is Okinawa, one is Sardinia, then there's Loma Linda, California. These are communities that have the highest concentration of centurions. So people are living longer. They're much healthier. They don't have dementia or as high accounts of dementia. They don't have any obesity. Heart disease is very, very low. Not many of them are actually wearing glasses. So their aging process is much slower than the average typical person. So I've always wondered why this could be. So, you know, doing research and just developing menus and things like that, one of the things that they really focus on is a plant-based diet. Okay, so they're plant-forward meals. They use legumes and whole grains in a lot of their cooking. They use healthier fats, nuts, and seeds. There's moderate portions. So one of the rules is they only eat till 80% full. They don't eat until they have to take a nap after. They eat very minimally processed foods. And then the food is part of the community. So one of the biggest things that I take very, very seriously at Snow Canyon is it's breaking bread with friends and family. And one of the things that I just wanted to touch upon is, talking about, you don't have to live here to belong, like building that community. One of the things I love about Snow Canyon compared to many other properties I have seen, nobody comes and takes mom or dad out of our community and goes to a restaurant. They take
That's
the
a
entire
very good
family
point.
here. Yeah,
Yes.
the whole family comes here to dine. So we have 6 tops, we have 8 tops. And so I take that very, very seriously. Like that is just an awesome thing. And it just makes me smile from ear to ear when that happens. And then the other thing on that is it does actually create revenue for our department, which makes it much easier for me to support, menus in a dining program like this. Okay.
Proper staffing levels, all those things. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then incorporating these menus and this kind of philosophy, it doesn't mean that we're going to, we're not taking stuff away. We're just swapping. We're changing the thought process a little bit. So we're swapping refined grains with whole grains. Okay, we're increasing legumes in our soups, in our salads. We're making vegetables the star of the dish, not an afterthought. So a lot of times that's the focus of the dish. And then yes, we have a little 4, 5, or 6 ounce piece of chicken with it. Using herbs, citrus, and spices instead of excess salt. And then just offering naturally sweetened desserts. One of my favorites is a chia seed pudding. It's just fantastic. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Hey, Ken, one of the things I love that you've done, because you always get a lot of participation from the residents, but did you do some type of contest, or did you have where people shared their favorite recipe, or can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm always trying to involve the residents. So I've done tours in the kitchen multiple times where I just bring in residents to see, what's behind the doors. So it's opening their eyes to what's happening. I ask what childhood favorites are. Like, what did your mom cook for you?
I think that was the one that stuck out to me that I just heard people rave about. It was so meaningful to them. It was so meaningful.
Yeah, and it might not be exactly the same. It's not going to be just like mom made it, but again, it's nostalgia on a plate. So it's a connection. Now all of a sudden they're connected to our department. It's not just here's your plate of food. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah. So now they're connected with us. Right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Correct.
Love it.
And then
we did
then also
a question from the audience, if you don't mind. So the question is, do you ever receive pushback from residents who are not accustomed to eating trendier foods like chia seed pudding?
I have had 1 or 2 comments of we don't like butternut squash and there's too much butternut squash on the menu. So basically the way I kind of deal with something like that is just through variety. So I try to pepper the menus with, the healthier dishes, but you're going to see some of that comfort food. So the next night we're going to have the meatloaf. And we're going to have the chicken fried steak and, those types of things. So most of the time it might be a comment in passing, but usually there's enough variety to appease almost everybody. So I don't have I don't feel like I have a lot of pushback. And the other thing too that I've implemented here, I do not like food committees. I don't like them at all. I would never push for a food committee.
Tell me what a food committee is.
So in a lot of properties, what they'll do is they have like the resident council and all that stuff, but they'll have a food committee. And usually the food committee is going to be your loudest and most outspoken residents,
Yeah.
and then they're going to dictate what the menus are going to be for everybody. I don't like that philosophy at all. So what I have done is twice a week, I do one dinner with the chef on independent living side and then one in assisted living side. And I just dine with the residents. And then I can pick up these little bits of information. Like I don't want it to be a venting session. I don't want it to be anything like that, but I'll pick up little informations like, oh, I really would love to see a Cobb salad. And then sure enough, I'll sneak a Cobb salad into, next week's, special rotation. So that I think that's why I'm always actively listening to the residents. So I think that's why I don't get a lot of pushback, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You do have some sophisticated residents, I'll say. And like you said, well-traveled. But what stands out to me is just the amount of care and intentionality and pride that goes into all of this. That again, I don't think people know that this is what senior living is or should be. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you ask seniors what's the one thing they want, it's more time. So, and I really take that, I always have that in the back of my mind when I'm preparing the food. So, and then just, this slide basically talks about, again, just having the spa background, we want clean flavors. We want visual appeal. We want balanced micronutrients, thoughtful plating, and then just seasonal, vibrant ingredients. And then the biggest thing too is I think, when the food looks like when the food is elevated, and it tastes like it's layered and intentional, then and it feels like restaurant quality. What happens is the residents naturally make better choices. So that helps us out. And then also, I think this is a big push and a big change that you're seeing in senior living too, is we're moving away from like compliance-based nutrition to an inspirational based nutrition. So before it used to be send the food off to the dietitian, they're going to sign off on it. Okay, it's all signed off on. So here's your 4-week rotational menu. That's not the future of senior living. The future is they want to see, again, intentional menus, intentional dishes that are varied and have a lot of complexity to them. So it's not just the plain old menus.
Well, and I think it goes back to like the staffing, right? And who are we choosing, Jenna? Like you said, just the level of individuals that are coming in to work in senior living, which is excellent, right? And that's the way we improve it and we get out of some of that compliance based kind of dining, right? So I love to see that. And I do think that's been a shift in senior living where we're hiring more seasoned people in their area of expertise. So
yeah,
awesome.
And then just the next slide real fast.
Yeah.
This is just a quick sample of a lunch menu. Again, as you can see, we have the deep fried fish one day, but then we have, healthier menus. We actually have quite a few vegetarian options, which the residents really do I feel like they're really engaged with the vegetarian style and options. And then again,
I want to just chime in on that because I was there recently for a very nice dinner that you hosted. And I think maybe 20 minutes before I got there, I texted someone and said, I forgot to mention I'm vegetarian. And I said, don't worry about it. I'll just pick around, like, no worries. You made me a vegetable lasagna. You whipped up all these special things that were absolutely delicious to the point where people who were sitting across from me were like, well, what do you have? Oh, I want to try that. So you guys do vegetarian really, really well.
Well, thank you. And then overall, again, we're just, with the spa and the blue zone philosophy, we're just really trying to push for overall health. The nutrition should be able to influence cognitive clarity, energy levels, blood sugar stability, and moods. And then the biggest thing is When the residents feel better, they engage more, they socialize more, and they move more. So that's what our main focus is just really trying to give the residents just that elevated sense of dining, definitely a restaurant feel. So it's not repetitive for them.
I love it. Yeah, lots of variety, lots of choice, lots of personalization. Again, I spoke with a resident recently who was worried. She was gluten-free and was and very highly allergic, was very worried about it. And it was like, yeah, no problem. We can accommodate you. And they were, delighted. So
Yeah.
Okay, Haley, next slide. Okay. We are going to go ahead and close out unless there are any other questions. I am surprised we only got one. I did have kind of a funny comment I want to share. It says, wow, I've never heard of a community without a food committee. Progressive, Ken. So I wanted to share that. I think that's a great comment. And I do think it just points to the way that senior living is shifting. I hope for our attendees, we've done a great job of kind of painting the picture of what a Grace community looks like, what senior living is moving, what direction it's moving in, what senior living should look and feel like. And so we just so appreciate you guys attending today. And if you have any questions for us, we will go ahead and send out information following, and you're welcome to reach out to any of us. We're always happy to speak with anyone and be a resource for you. And we hope you join us next month. We're going to be talking about senior living and the role we really play in the healthcare ecosystem, because it has shifted because of some challenges in healthcare, also the baby boomers. And we're really excited to talk about what senior living is as it relates to that. So we hope you'll join us. And then I do want to share one more thing. Next slide, Haley. Thank you. If you want, I'm going to plug Snow Canyon here for a minute, although we talked about a lot of our communities. But again, it's a beautiful community in Southern Utah. Ken, thank you for being here. Jenna, thank you so much for being here. And Jennifer as well. Thank you guys for the energy, the incredible expertise you bring. And we're so excited about what the future of senior living looks like for everyone. Thank you guys so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.